episode of Surviving the Survivor. We bring you the best guests in all of true crime. Don't forget to subscribe and smash that like button. Here's your host, Emmy Award-winning broadcaster, Joel Waldman.
Donna Adelson, 75 years old. She's about to stand trial in a week or so for the murder of her ex-son-in-law in a murder for hire plot. Of course, that person is Dan Markel, all about justice for Dan Markel. And she, Donna Adelson, is facing prison for the rest of her life without the possibility of parole if convicted. So the question today is, could Donna Adelson actually survive long-term behind bars and even thrive potentially? What's up, STS Nation? Welcome to Surviving the Survivor. This is the show that brings you the very best guests in all of true crime. And this afternoon, we are diving deep into what life would really look like for Donna Adelson if convicted, transitioning, as I said, from jail to a Florida state prison, if that conviction is deemed to be a guilty conviction by a jury of her peers. And we're also going to talk a little bit about jailhouse informants, because that's one of the motions that Donna's defense attorneys have filed to suppress some potential information from jailhouse informants. Welcoming to the show, we've got two new best guests. First up, Dr. J, otherwise known fully and professionally as Dr. John Laurie. He is a 20-year veteran of Connecticut Corrections and chair of the Criminal Justice School at Albertus Magnus College in Connecticut. And you know this face. She's been on before with the wild Larry Levine. This is Jackie Purcell. She is the founder of Evolution Reentry Services. She says I always say evolutionary, which I probably do. She is formerly incarcerated. She is now a private investigator. She's going to give Monica Jordan a run for her money, I guess, or we're going to see. And last but certainly not least, we've got Rashmi Iran, and correct me, Rashmi, if I'm pronouncing it wrong. Rashmi is an Ivy League educated attorney. She's a former Wall Street investment banker, serial entrepreneur, college professional, professionally trained vocalist. She might sing for us. A convicted felon is thrown in there, and a globally recognized transformation expert. So three really interesting people here. Rashmi, I've got to ask you a little bit about your background. Not every day you hear about an Ivy League graduate who is also a formerly incarcerated. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to school? How'd you get in trouble? And how'd you change your life around?
Yeah, thanks for asking, and glad to be here. So nice to participate. I live in Miami, Florida. I grew up here.
I live in Miami, Florida. We're going to have lunch one day.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So I live out in Pinecrest, so I'm not sure where you're at.
Yeah.
So I would say that I am the daughter of immigrants from India. And so all that goes along with, the pressure of being the oldest of three daughters of immigrant parents from India, and self-imposed pressure to, always sort of be that kid that was achieving, and absolutely all of my self-worth, self-love, and identity was rooted in that. Not because anybody told me to be that way. I just believe it's just this self-imposed belief that many of us take on. And it's not just the Indian community. I do think just many of us, whether it's the immigrant community or just overachievers, type A personalities. And so my whole life, I was always the perfect little Indian girl, super nerdy. I went to UNC Chapel Hill, and, I had to get the best grades and win all the awards and get into all the honorary societies. And I did all of that. You might be able to see, Chapel Hill is one of my happy places. I went from there to Morgan Stanley on Wall Street and worked as an investment banker in the corporate finance department. Did that for 2 years. And then I left there and I went to Columbia Law School. Again, did very well, graduated top of my class. And from there, by way of California, I ended up back in Miami as a lawyer. So I worked for a litigation boutique. And then I worked at the county attorney's office. So our quote clients were the mayors and the commissioners in the various departments for Miami-Dade County. Mm-hmm. So I got to understand like civil, municipal, sort of codes and laws and all the things that go on locally here. And Miami-Dade County, of course, is huge, as you know, John. And then from there, in 2004, I started my own practice. And essentially what happened was I started a real estate title company. So I was a real estate lawyer, transactional. And my husband at the time was a firefighter for City of Miami. And we ended up having, 2 children. And in 2007, so like just before the market crash, but in the heyday of real estate, I had the opportunity to meet a real estate developer. And to make a very long story short, over the course of 15 months, I did about 200 closings for him. And what I didn't do is I didn't listen to my gut. I basically shut down my inner voice, which was screaming at the very beginning, saying, ask more questions. Why, something doesn't feel right. And I just convinced myself sort of by, I would say, rationalizing and justifying and making a lot of assumptions that every other big developer is kind of doing the same thing. And he was essentially doing creative transactions. And my job as an attorney was I should have either asked more questions and walked away or not moved forward with this developer. I got visited by the FBI 4 years later. I got a grand jury subpoena 2 years later. I got indicted a year later for conspiracy to commit bank fraud and bank fraud. And then ultimately I pled guilty to 1 count of conspiracy because what I understood and learned was that I did, as an attorney, have that fiduciary duty, and I knew enough. And so I have transformed my life in the last decade to understanding that my story is my story. Everybody else's story in my audiences or theirs have their own story, but we all have struggle in our lives. It's the universal truth. And so when we go through struggle, which looks differently for all of us every single day, it could be defined as legal, financial, marital, medical, mental health, or uncertainty, fear, anxiety, all the things. So we all go through it. So when we go through those moments, what I believe is we don't just rise above and move on and push harder, because then I spiritually believe that we go through these struggles and moments to actually grow and evolve and become better versions of ourselves. And so rather than rising above, what I believe is we have to rise by going through it. And so I have a 4-part framework. And I feel really honored and blessed that corporations, associations all over the world now hire me to share really vulnerably. And it's hard. I mean, Jackie, right? Like it's hard to live in that space of constantly owning it. And I share it very publicly. And I share it really to help others glean from the strength that I've found by evolving from this pain and healing through it.
Well, kudos to you for turning your life around. I was going to say, for someone who looks 28, you've been through a lot.
I wish.
Yeah. I can tell you firsthand as an anxious Jewish guy that we all experience stuff. And the pressures of life can sometimes be overwhelming. So for anyone out there that is struggling or having a hard time, you've got examples. Rashmi is, like she said, very vocal about it. And do you have a book, Rashmi?
Oh, funny you should ask. I just finished it. It is going to launch in the spring. Huh. I'm very excited. It's actually the same publisher. Mel Robbins sits on this board. And so we have it's titled All Rise, A Lawyer's Journey from Prison to Purpose.
They're perfect. I love that title. And in the meantime, Rashmi, you can read my book, Surviving the Survivor. It's easy. It's the same name as the podcast, and you'll find out why I'm so screwed up. Jackie, before we get to the doctor on the panel, you had a somewhat, different but somewhat similar experience, but you got in some financial trouble. Donna Adelson, and I can happily say that neither of you were indicted for conspiracy to commit murder, which is good for both of you. But you had very quickly, Jackie, what happened to you? You were, a rising star and then got kind of caught in some financial trouble too.
It's actually a repeat of Rashmi. It's very, I was in the real estate industry. I owned a title company, 2007, 2008, same.
Oh,
thing.
wow.
Yeah. Same exact thing. Got caught up in the, since then I got my master's in criminal justice. Had a great professor who mentored me, Dr. J. Larry, who never would give me 100, so pushed me hard. Then I recently graduated with my master's in investigations from University of New Haven, and I'm doing more real estate deed theft investigation, mortgage fraud investigation work now. I'm working with a lot of attorneys. It's a lot of fun, but I also talk very transparently, openly. I think it's important to take accountability, to remember where we came from in order to get better. So,
Yes.
Yeah. Look at this. Ned Smith. STS has changed the face. These are formerly incarcerated, former inmates, but convicts at one time, I guess. Doctor, so just so you know, because then I get hate mail, people say this is a doctor and you're calling him Jay. We had a conversation. So his name is Dr. John Laurie, and he goes by Jay, and I will call him Dr. J today. So Dr. J, to you, you worked, what was your capacity in the Department of Corrections, and what kind of doctorate do you have?
Okay, so I began my career in the Connecticut Department of Correction in 1993 as an officer. I spent 10 years in a few positions, made it to a supervisor year 10. So 10 through 20, I was a unit manager. So basically, I oversaw the operations of specific housing units. I did my entire career at it's actually the largest maximum security male facility in New England. So I did my 20 there. No aspirations to go into law enforcement before I started. I took my LSATs. I was going to be an environmental lawyer. Long story short, ended up working in corrections. Got my master's in 2000, started teaching corrections, and absolutely fell in love with it. So wanted to find ways to advance the profession, advance the field. Looked in some academics, and I've been doing that for the last 30 years. Had the tremendous pleasure of having individuals like Jackie Purcell in my class who will not let that 100 go, but I appreciate the tenacity. But yeah, so that's how I got here.
Nice. Well, great to have you. I happened, if you guys watch the show, you know that 2 weeks ago I was in Boise, Idaho for the sentencing of BK. We're not really using his name anymore. The guy accused, or now convicted, I should say, of murdering the 4 University of Idaho students. And Dr. J, when I was out there, I got a tour of the Idaho Maximum Security Institution. And I got to tell you, 2 women on the panel, these are financial crimes. A lot of people who commit financial crimes are basically at a camp. But the IMSI, no joke. I was brought into the B block, which is like a long-term segregated administrative housing unit where I thought that they were out at the yard or that they were in the shower or something, because there wasn't a pin. Like you could hear a pin drop. I couldn't see anything. And then I was with the warden, and the warden there, a guy named Randy Valley, said to me, no, this is what they do all day. They're in their cells 23 hours a day. And then you could see some of the faces and the slats on the door. That made my anxiety level rise slightly. And as we walked around, there was another unit. It was like where all the gang members were housed together, actually. And one of the gang members was holding court. But just talk to me the difference here, because if convicted, Donna Adelson, there's a lot of ground to cover here, but let's start here. She was in a local county jail in Tallahassee, Leon County. She was moved out of there, and I'll get into why in a moment, into the neighboring county, Wakulla County. Had something to do with a tablet issue and about 90 other things that she was complaining about. But what will that be like for her to transition from, if convicted, of course, what will it be like for her to transition from the Wakulla County Jail to a state prison in Florida?
Okay, I just want to preface this quickly because actually I was on another podcast talking about BK last week, so this is fresh in my mind. One of the things I'd like to talk about here. So my professional experience, 20 years working in Connecticut. As we know, there's one federal prison system. There are 50 state prison systems. There are about 3,000 county jails. So I'm speaking from my experience. I've never worked in Florida. I've never worked in a female facility, but certain things are sort of universal. So what's going to happen is she is going to get, if and when she is sentenced, she will go to some sort of an assessment unit. They do a risk assessment to determine her risk level. And that pretty much says what facility she will go to, level 2, 3, or 4. Once they establish what security level facility she will be at, they will do a needs assessment to see what sorts of needs she has: medical, mental health, substance abuse, education, things like that. And then once they know what security level she will go to, they will try and get her to a facility to accommodate those needs as well. And then she will get there, and she may or may not be processed. The unit that you spoke about with BK, for instance, initially after the sentencing, because it was such a high profile, they want to assess him for a little while so they can keep him in there. And there's really no way of knowing. It depends on how the individual acclimates into that population. She may be in an assessment unit for 2 weeks and then get into a facility. And again, just based off the information I have, her experience in prison and BK's experience in prison are going to be much different. So, at that point, she will get herself into a unit, a housing unit. She will get into some sort of a daily schedule. And the other panelists can certainly speak to this better than I can specifically. But she will just, in my opinion, she will do her best to acclimate into that population, keep her head down, stay out of trouble, and just try to do the best she can. Whether or not she accomplishes that, it's on her. But generally speaking, that is the way most individuals make that progression.
By the way, the Jewish high holidays are coming up. You have the Jewish New Year followed by the Day of Atonement. Some Jewish people who are religious will literally knock on their chest to ask for forgiveness from God, which I'm doing right now because I forgot to mention it's a national holiday today. It is Carm's birthday. That is my mother. She is the host emerita of the Surviving the Survivor podcast, and that's yours truly blowing bubblegum at Kutcher Sports Academy at camp in 1979. That is my mother. That is Carm in the Wynwood section of Miami with a boa constrictor around her neck. I have no idea these COE picked out these pictures, but today she is 86 years young. I called her this morning to wish her a happy birthday, and she said, "Listen, Joel, today is my birthday. I don't want to hear any shit from you." So I've decided I will not annoy her today. We are taking her to the family, my kids, my wife. We're all going to dinner. Right. That's why the podcast is early today. But today is the national holiday. Carm she loves, I got to tell you, so many people at STS are wishing her a happy birthday. So I'll put this photo. Look at her with her pearl. She got annoyed at me.
So wonderful. She's just, that's the reason I come on, because I love Carm.
Yeah. By the way, she said to me, "Why would you throw me under the bus?" I said, "What are you talking about?" When she turned 40, which was 46 years ago, she had an oil painting portrait made of herself. And she's like, "Why would you tell everybody that?" But I thought it was super cool. My dad paid for it. It still hangs. She looks like, Margaret Thatcher. And I put, it's just my sister and I. So I've put dibs on it post the Carmela era, if there is such a thing. I think it might be post me before it's post Carm. By the way, we once had JL Covan, who's a stand-up comic, and he said, if Carm is no longer here, are you switching the name to I Survived the Survivor? And I hope that I never have to do that. I really hope I never have to do that. But I love my mom. She's awesome. People, by the way, like after last night's show, will email me and say that I am so rude to my mother and that I'm a horrible son. But I have written a book about my mother. I call my mother probably 37 times a day. So if that's a horrible son, so be it.
I'll tell you, Joel, I moved in with my parents a few years ago, and I'm single. So for me, not that I want to be single, I just happen to be single currently. And I have 2 college-age children. And honestly, in the Indian community, multi-generational living is very common. And so it's been such a blessing and gift to all 3 levels of our family, right? My parents, me, and my kids. Yeah. And I love being around my mom and my dad, but my mom and I, probably like you, we fight. It just happens. Yeah. I did want to add a little bit to what Jay said, because I was asked while I was I was most of my time at a federal camp, which was an hour north of Orlando at Coleman, but I was asked to spend I was asked to testify in a case in Tampa. Now, there was a lot of conversation around whether I was going to go, what was the benefit of me going. Ultimately, it was decided that I would go and testify in this other case, federal case in Tampa. But since there's no federal prison in Tampa, I was housed in Pasco County Jail. So I spent 23 days in Pasco County Jail. And, it was significantly different than federal. Everything from the receiving a discharge to obviously the unit, and then of course who I was in prison with. But one of my biggest takeaways I remember from county jail was as I was being transported, which I'm sure Jackie can relate, like the actual transport process is so dehumanizing. Of course, R&D is dehumanizing, but the transport where the marshals are transporting you, it's a whole other topic of conversation. But as I was going, I was thinking to myself, like, okay, I've been 5 months in federal, and I was thinking, like, I didn't know what to expect. And I was already in my mind passing judgment on these women I was going to be with in county. And one of my biggest sort of learnings from me was that we're all the same. We're all just humans, drops from the same ocean. And, but for the grace of God, there go I. And so, I really learned a lot by spending those days. I was really scared. And those 23 days taught me so much about myself, and really our sort of shared humanity. So,
yeah.
But I think there are all sorts of very specific things about the county jail experience.
Coleman is one of the worst camps too. So
yeah, Coleman was less. I mean, I hear it's not like Bryan, where Ghislaine Maxwell was just signed. By the way, her attorney was my attorney.
Oh wow. So Rashmi, I have a lot of questions for you, and I think that there is you got your worlds apart from Donna Sue Adelson, but in some ways there are a lot of similarities. And by the way, they're trying to launch STS singles. Not me; it's a grassroots effort. So we'll keep our eyes open for you. But Jackie, so Dr. J talked about, if again goes with a caveat, if convicted, and there's a mountain of evidence against her, but there would have to be this needs assessment and security level. If convicted, she obviously is remanded into the custody of the Department of Corrections for the state of Florida. How quickly after trial is she literally moved? Just kind of for those, because we have no idea. Walk us through, or the vast majority of us have no idea. Walk us through the process. I mean, if convicted, she would be handcuffed right after the trial. And how soon thereafter is she moved? And what is that process like for her?
Well, that's where it's very different from federal. So federal, what she's going to experience is she'll get handcuffed, like you said, immediately. In federal, you get a time where you can self-surrender. So she's going to get handcuffed immediately. The dehumanization on state level is double what you would go through on the federal level. And like Dr. J said, it all depends on her demeanor, on how quickly she gets moved. She's going to go right to county. And at that point, I'm assuming they'll do the needs assessment prior, because they're going to want to take her, I think, directly from, come on, we kind of know what the outcome's going to be, right? They're going to already be prepared for her to go and spend her time. So she gets transported by the marshals in this van. And the thing about it is with women is they don't segregate. So they're not going to put the women separate. Women get transported, whether it's on Conair, which is through the air, or on bus with men.
Whoa, I did not know that. So the men and the women, really? Okay. That sounds potentially dangerous. I mean,
for Donna Adelson is a little different because of her age.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's not like she's a young girl, but she does get transported with whatever other prisoners get transported that day. There's no female van, male van kind of thing. And the R&D intake, she strips. And what you see in the movies is very accurate, or in Orange is the New Black. She strips. She will have to squat and cough, and they will make sure she has nothing inside her body cavities before they, especially in a state prison, before they let her in. I've been to Niantic a few times in Connecticut, which is a women's prison. And there's more strip searches done in the state prison than there is in the federal prison.
How dehumanizing is that aspect when you have to strip naked and cough?
I have to be honest, I purposely, I think, blocked it out. I don't remember my intake. And I think that's purposely, my mind has done that. I know it's, luckily, I only had to go through it one time, and that was when I was going into prison. And even though they're women guards doing it, it's this, you don't even know. It's like you don't even realize. You may have a male gynecologist, female gynecologist. It's the same thing. It doesn't make a difference. It's so, I guess I have a hard time speaking about it because I've blocked it out, but I have been with other women. When Evolution does self-surrenders, Danbury, we're allowed to stay, and it is to make it a little bit more comfortable. It is very traumatizing, no matter what age you're at. And especially, I would think, for someone Donna Adelson's age, right? Because, younger people tend to be free. Oh, here you go. Here's my body. But someone her age is not as comfortable with spreading it all for the intake. I think that's the hardest thing. But they're going to transfer her pretty quickly. And then she has a lot of self-searching to do. She's got to look inward, because either she's going to accept it and try to make a life for herself, but she'll fight it for the first couple. She'll fight it for a while.
Yeah. So much to get through here. So Dr. J, back to you. Donna had a hearing a while back. By the way, there's a big hearing tomorrow that could extend into the afternoon, and we're going to be taking that live starting at 9 a.m. tomorrow. So we will be taking that live tomorrow, obviously, and please tune in for that. But Dr. J, to you, Donna had a whole list of jail complaints before she was moved out, and they included, and it's ironic because the defense of her son was that they were extorted by these hitmen, which was almost a laughable defense. But she claimed extortion in jail. She claimed sexual harassment in the shower, that someone touched her buttocks, physical threats related to commissary purchases, fear of retaliation if she named her assailants. She talked about leg and hip pain, arm numbness, shortness of breath, chest tightness, and the one that's perhaps most famous is she complained about her ear canals. She says she has narrower than normal ear canals, Jay, and she wasn't able to get them cleaned out properly. I guess it's a two-part question. Have you heard every complaint in the book? And I mean, is this a case study in jail is not a fun place? You're not getting a king-size mattress with a duvet. That was another thing. She complained about the thickness of the mattress. Is it going to get better or worse if convicted and she goes to state prison?
It's not going to get better. The reality, and it was referenced earlier, there's a lot of, I think, misconceptions about what incarceration truly is. Most people, whether it's Orange is the New Black, Shawshank Redemption, or someone that's either been in a facility or worked in a facility, prison is for those that have been there, it's very difficult to explain. And also, I think, just to back up a little bit, one of the biggest issues we have is, as a society, why are we punishing people? Is it rehabilitation? Is it retribution? Is it incapacitation? So depending on what the reasoning is, sort of justifies why we punish. But as far as the conditions, yes. And I'm not trying to be cute here. A lot of what she's saying is probably true, and a lot of what she's saying is probably false. And that was always kind of the biggest struggle. Individuals make accusations. Again, in my 20 years, I lost count of the number of, medical isn't doing X, Y, and Z. I need, I have acid reflux. I need a wedge for my pillow, the mattress. So, everything that you've mentioned is pretty much boilerplate, new inmate material, I guess, in a way. So, and the reality is the department does try and do the best they can to address these things. I know a lot of people, the mentality is, the guards don't care, the staff don't care, nobody cares. And to be quite honest with you, I didn't find it. I think the majority of individuals I worked with were public servants, truly care about their job. Because the reality is, maybe not in Donna's case, but 95% of all the individuals who are incarcerated are one day coming out. So what type of individual do you want coming back to your community? And I think, and I guess, full disclosure, I think that change has happened over the last year. When I began my career in 1993, a lot of the attitudes, I think, in prison were much different. But as we've progressed, as we've gotten new generations of individuals working in administrative roles, I think there's more of an emphasis on making sure that all of those needs are being met. And again, the reality is some things can be and some things can't be. But more often than not, in my experience, agencies want to address those needs so they don't continue to have to deal with these claims and lawsuits and things like that.
Yeah, I've got a legal question in a moment for Rashmi, but Jay, back to you for a second. So You mentioned BK. You did another podcast. How dare you? But
I will, guys. We didn't know each other then. I apologize. Retroactively.
Okay. So I talked to I had an interesting conversation with the warden there. Everyone seems to think prison justice will be meted out and he might get his in prison. Someone like Donna Adelson, who, by the way, is probably likely to have the same defense where they are going to throw the Latin King gang under the bus. Is there the possibility, and I've had Jackie on before saying that the older women prisoners are generally well respected, but is there the possibility, first of all, will everyone know who Donna Adelson is when she gets there? And is there the possibility of a target on her back?
Absolutely, yes. Everybody knows who she is before she gets there. They will know all about the case. That this is pretty much common practice, especially in today's day and age with instant information. Inmates can reach out to their people, get all the information they have, so they know coming in what her situation is. Will she be victimized? Again, there's no way of really knowing. I'm speaking in a generalized term here, and the other two panelists can certainly agree or disagree. In my experience, male facilities tend to be a little more physically violent. Female facilities tend to be a little more emotionally driven, and people can jump on me all about that. But I don't see, if it was a male facility, I think there would be a much greater likelihood that she would be physically assaulted. Given the fact it's a female facility and also given her age, I think those may be factors that would mitigate that. But the thing about jail, the thing about prison is you never want to rule anything out. I would be more surprised, again, compared to someone like BK. I would be much more surprised if she encountered those sorts of issues. The extortion thing, that's a little bit different. Extortion's sometimes a little more subtle, a little more, it's difficult to explain a black eye, a broken jaw. It's a little more difficult to explain, something along how they're being extorted.
And Jay, what about BK? What do you think? Does he, will he be, I mean, obviously he's a target, but will they get to him in prison?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it all depends on how long he's going to stay in, their version of solitary, that 23-hour. And this is, again, I can only go based off my experiences in Connecticut. If you go back 40 years, the most violent, dangerous, psychotic individuals in Connecticut that committed crimes, I had them. I knew them personally. I had them for years. And the reality is most of them do their bit. They just do their time and you don't hear about it. Anything can happen. But the reality in a lot of ways, the BK case, this case, the reason we're talking about it is it's so famous, it's so popular, people know about it. Individuals, again, in my experience, those individuals, those murders, some of the most horrific, brutal, violent murders that have ever been committed, but they were committed in Hartford, New Haven, or Bridgeport, or an area that was overlooked, so to speak. So those individuals are who the BKs and everybody else are interacting with. So in a lot of ways, there is a bit of a class system, so to speak, when it comes to types of offenses. Generally, murderers are sort of towards the top. However, there were young female victims. Going back to BK, time will tell. I have some theories, but what would not surprise me, and people get really upset about this, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, if he was in general population and he was a tutor in an education program. And those are the wild, that's what it's because he was a very educated person. He's not your typical inmate coming into prison. So again, depending on how he chooses to do his bid, depending what breaks his way and what doesn't, is going to dictate what his future is going to be like.
Very interesting. Rashmi, back to you, and you're an attorney as well. So there was a motion in limine, which is basically a motion to suppress evidence. And what we've learned, Rashmi, is there were some wiretaps that the government got in this particular case, and it was enough to lead them to a new investigation back in December that will likely, at least aspects, be used in this trial. So part of the investigation apparently involves jailhouse informants who were speaking to the middle woman, a woman named Katie Magbanawa, and it's details are a little sketchy, but part of it is also that Donna was apparently trying to get people to try to testify on her behalf as, character witnesses, that sort of thing. I guess the bottom line question is, and you were in a different type of facility, but how eager are inmates to get out, and at what cost? What will they do to get out, and including testifying to something they might not know a lot about or acting as an informant?
Oh gosh. Well, first of all, I need to clarify. I'm not a lawyer anymore.
Yeah.
I did lose my license. So I need to clarify.
Mm.
And I, to be fair, I never practiced criminal. I always tell people I was a dirt lawyer. Okay. I was a real estate lawyer. So I can't really speak a lot to the evidentiary sort of process, but to the question of how badly people want to get out of prison. Well, I would say pretty badly. I would say, I don't know, at least the women that I was around, I don't know if I met one person who would lie and do something unethical to try to get out. I think people have a pretty good sense of self and self-awareness around what's right and wrong. And they take, at least the people I was around, my friends, certainly took the idea of incarceration as an opportunity to reflect and reinvent our lives very seriously. So whether they're taking classes in the education program or going to the church, the chapel. Now, having said that, there are obviously exceptions to every situation. So I am sure there are people that would do whatever they want to, including lie. I just never saw that. So look, being whatever facility you're in, whether you're in county, state, or federal, being away from your family and your children and being away from your life is hard, right? It's not something that we wish on others. And so when you're there, the impetus is, how quickly can I get out? I was really blessed that by testifying in this other case in county, I did get, in federal, it's called Rule 35, right? So I got out early and I never had to go to house arrest or halfway house. And that was such a blessing. And so people are craving for something like that. In federal, of course, you get good time credit. And so I don't know how many people would be willing, but I am sure if they try hard enough, they can find somebody to,
Yeah.
I guess lie.
Yeah, I'm sure. So, Jackie, to you, the two potential jailhouse informants, it's a woman named Drina Bernhardt. One of them is wanted for back in on sex trafficking charges, and the other is now slipping my mind, but they're sort of career criminals that have been in and out of the system. So this woman, Drina Bernhardt, apparently did 4 separate interviews with law enforcement. The defense is saying, look, whatever she's saying is false because she's, speaking against Donna Adelson. She's wanted at one point for violating probation. The other woman is named Patricia Bird, also basically a career criminal. And she was talking about the middle woman in this case, Katie Magbonawa, saying that she got favors from jail staff and got information. She says that Charlie Adelson did in fact pay for her boob job, which was one of the points of contention. All kinds of things come out. And the defense on this says that some of this is likely true, but it would need to be limited. Again, same question. In your experience, are there women who are either factually correct or making stuff up simply to get the attention of whoever is, deciding their fate as a way for them to get out of prison? I mean, how desperate are people to get out? Everyone seems to say, unless you're a lifer, the minute you're in, you're just thinking about your get out of prison date. So how do you know if these women are speaking the truth or just using it to their advantage?
Wow. There's a lot of different components there because you don't know. I mean, how do you really know? I mean, you trust but verify, right? So how do you verify? You verify from other inmates who, that's really how you know. And in federal prison, you have SIS. I had a different experience where women really didn't take a lot of accountability, and quite a few women worked with SIS to get time off because, I mean, the good time back, I mean, we were talking years ago, back then, you did 85% of your time. It was limited other ways to get out of prison early. And with what we called inmate.com, similar to the internet, the rumors fly unbelievably. So how close were these two women to the actual source of Donna? How were they in the same cell together? There's a lot of different components. Is it hearsay? Did they hear it from other women? Did it come to trickle down through inmate.com? Or was it a direct statement from Donna to them? I'd say probably some of it is true. Probably most of it is not. It's kind of like, when I was inside, I had an iPod. Well, when all's done and said, inmate.com I was housing a laptop that was able to get on the internet. So the little things become now these large issues where, you want to get out of prison quickly. And while there was a handful of us who took accountability and were working on ourselves, there's also the women that are in and out, recidivating in and out of prison through life's experiences and through bad choices, who just want to continue to just keep just trying to get out of prison. So,
and Jay, this is interesting, Dr. J, to me. It says in the second warrant affidavit, so there's so much going on in this trial, but essentially the defense, with a week to go, has said this judge needs to step away. The judge said no way, because he was signing off on some of these warrants. There was an issue of potential prejudice, et cetera, et cetera. But in the second warrant affidavit, prosecutors wrote, and I quote here, that a jailhouse informant alleged Miss Adelson was offering to pay for witness testimony. It also said there were overlapping communications records between Harvey Adelson, the defense attorney's cell phones, and their visits with Donna Adelson at the Leon County Detention Facility. The bottom line is the state was saying there was unkosher stuff going on, potentially even with Harvey, either bringing a cell phone in or the defense potentially bringing a cell phone in, and offers maybe financial for some sort of witness testimony. I assume you saw some of this in your own day-to-day experience in Connecticut, where, I mean, let's be honest, a lot of these people are hardened criminals, and they're going to do what they can to cut corners and try to get an earlier exit for them, aren't they?
Absolutely. And the story that comes to mind is early in my career, maybe 95 or 96, I had an inmate in my unit who was just finishing up a small bid. It was an arson bid. It was maybe 7 or 8 years. So prior to that, when he was in county, when he was going through his sentencing before that, he was bragging to his cellmate in county about how he murdered 7 or 8 women in Waterbury, Connecticut. Fast forward 5 or 6 years, that individual he was talking to the cell went back on the street, got picked up on another charge. He was looking at some serious time. So he gave up that information. And I was actually in the unit when the Connecticut State Police showed up in the facility and charged this individual, I think it was 6 counts of murder, based on his admitting to his cellmate they were having a tough guy competition about who committed the worst crimes. So I ended up coming back. He left my block with 4 years left, and an hour later came back doing life without the possibility of parole. So, and that was strictly from testimony that he had given to, whoever he was in that cell with at the county jail at the time. So yeah, snitching in a male facility in Connecticut was common practice. Dealt with it, on a daily basis. I would get anonymous notes under my door. Hey, check 7 cell for drugs, 15 cells got heroin, whatever it was. So yeah, there was very little shame in the game with those.
Yeah. Shout out to M. Karen here for the super chat, wishing us a birthday. Happy belated. And thank you very much. I always say best guest, better community. It says it right behind me, right there. Jackie, back to you. There's sort of a glorification of female prisons with Orange is the New Black, other TV shows, sort of like the sexification of prisoner jail. But Donna did complain that someone touched her, as she said, on her buttocks while in the shower. If she's moved to a state prison, she is 75 years old, but will there be women, I guess, sexually interested in her? Is that something she's going to have to deal with in terms of staving off? What is that aspect of prison life, if convicted, potentially going to look like for her?
Well, sure. It could happen. It's It's possible. It's possible that she chooses to take on, while she's there for a while and she gets life, she chooses to be protected by someone younger to help her with cooking and commissary and getting the things that she needs. It's in federal camp, thinking how little I knew when I was there, but when I got home, I was like, wait, they were together? I did, like, it wasn't something that I saw going on, and maybe I was just oblivious because I was there to work on myself. But you come home and you find out how it is very common that you find a girlfriend gay for the stay, or
Jackie, is it more common in women's prisons? I guess that, because I hear all the time now that in male prisons it's a lot of hyperbole about the sex attacks in prison. But I mean, from your experience, Jackie.
Well, thank God I've never been in a men's prison.
Yeah.
So.
But what from what you know, though, I mean, I guess, are people more, I guess,
think women are
likely to be in,
based.
Yeah,
right. So we're emotional based, and I think women have, because of that, they're more apt to lean on other women, and then that emotions can become you're crying or you're. I think it can become more physical, easier maybe than a men's prison. It's not forced upon, more so than being agreed upon, I guess. But again, a guard, there is no consensual sex inside prison. So whether it's agreed upon or not, it's still sexual assault or sexual, no matter which side you're talking about. But it is something that I think women are more emotional, and that makes sense that we're more touchy-feely and women are more apt to hug. And then I would say yes, it probably happens more frequent in a women's prison.
So Rashmi, from sex to emotion here, a different kind of emotion. I mean, you are obviously, someone who's incredibly intelligent, law degree, UNC, Chapel Hill, Columbia Law. I mean, sort of the top pedigree in the country. Donna is not that, but Donna's from a very well-educated family. Husband's a dentist, son is a dentist, daughter is an attorney. What is it going to, there's got to be an aspect, I think, if we're being honest, of someone from your background who gets in the system and is now saying to themselves, I can't believe I'm in here with sort of the lowest common denominator of society, like the dregs of society, even though you were in a white collar system. But what do you think it's going to be like for Donna, who is a bit snobby, I would say, to maybe be transitioned into a state prison with some of the most hardened criminals? Oh, you're muted, by the way.
Sorry. Honestly, I think she's going to have like a coming to Jesus moment. She's going to have to face that demon inside and find the humility to let go of her ego and recognize that she's just like everybody else. And, I think it's very easy to pass judgment on other people when you're on the outside. Once you're inside, there's no classes, right? I mean, obviously there's cliques that get formed, oftentimes based on race, racial, separation, and just friends. And I remember I was in 3 separate facilities. I was in a detention center in Miami, I was at Coleman, and then I was in the county jail. And what I remember is on the first day of each, feeling like everyone already had their friends and everyone was already hanging out and had their kind of routine. And it's very hard to be an outsider walking into something where you're already scared enough. And then walking into a situation where you don't know a soul, you don't know if you're safe, you don't know which of these groups to try to go to first make a friend. So she's really going to have a reflective moment of first recognizing that she's not better than anybody else. And from that place of humility, trying to make some friends and opening up about, she likely won't open up about what happened, but at least about who she is. She's a mother, she's a grandmother. So those various things, she can find alignment and see commonality and similarities with others. And I think that that's going to be an important step for her to be able to open up and find the ability to move on, because the emotion of fear and anxiety can only be allayed, I think, when we kind of reflect in words and then just understand where it's coming from.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. Finish your thought. I'm sorry.
No. I was just going to say, like, when I was very intentional about the things I was reading and where I was putting my thoughts and what I was allowing into my energy. It was words that I was reading, people I was talking to, and it does take focus to make sure that you're not around, the negative, and whether it's people or things or viewpoints. And that's, but she's going to have to find that on her own. It'll be interesting to see how she navigates that.
Yeah. Jackie, back, one time I remember you talking about the fact that women of a certain age are generally left alone, and generally respected, in the prison system. Is that true across the board? I mean, they're going to know she's a high profile inmate. Is she going to get that same sort of respect because of her age right away?
Well, the thing is, respect goes both ways. And I think in the state prison, she's going to really need to earn that respect. She's not going to automatically get it. But yeah, I think genuinely because of her age, the women there will give her a little more rope than they would if she was someone younger. The bottom line is her crime puts her in a different class, right? Because in the federal prison, especially in a camp, it's a camp. So you obviously didn't commit, there's no heinous murder crimes. In the state prisons, there's different levels for sex offending, for like a Ghislaine Maxwell, who I'm shocked went to a camp, shocking to me, to murderers, to larceny, to people who have not even been convicted of crime and they're on bail. The levels and the class levels are so different. But I think that her age does give her a benefit of that rope and leeway that other girls would have just coming in, and the high profile. I mean, everyone's going to know who she is when she comes in anyway.
It's amazing to me, Jackie, how news travels. Like, I was asking the warden in Idaho about that, but number one, they've got tablets now, and number two, he said if they can't get it on the tablet, they're just calling home and asking their mom to Google whatever. But I mean, there's no doubt that they're going to know who she is, correct?
Oh yeah, TV too.
Yeah, on TV.
They have TV too. So
yeah, they love the local news there, I guess.
And in state prison, you can have a television in your own cell, whereas federal, you have one TV for everyone to watch. It's different in state.
So Dr. J is I just realized I'm calling you Dr. J, like Julius Irving. So I like it. Dr. J, you talked about this assessment. So if she is convicted, she right away is basically going to go. I think the reception center, by the way, is in the same county in Wakulla, if I'm correct. At least the men's is. So I think the women's probably is as well. Walk us through how someone like you and your team at a prison decide, okay, like she could tell you one thing and say, yeah, I'm fine. I was in jail. I'm used to something. I'm okay. And then turn around the next second and try to end her own existence. I don't know. How do you figure out what's really going on?
Absolutely. A lot of it comes down to just interviews, reviewing their pre-sentence investigation. The PSI is a tremendous tool that we use. So that basically gives us the offender's background, their education, substance abuse history, violence, family structure, things like that. So the department and everything that was collected during the trial. So the department will have a lot of information to be able to make their assessment. And, the suicide is obviously, it's a big issue for individuals new into the system. So they may have her on one-on-one watch for a certain amount of time, or they may keep her in a protective custody housing for a certain amount of time. And again, a lot of what's going to happen, in my opinion, a lot of what's going to happen is how much she cooperates with staff, how open she is with staff about, answering the questions and how much she wants to get out of that situation and at some point into general population.
By the way, people are correcting me as is usual, and I love it. That's why I always say, again, best guest, better community. The women's reception is done at Lowell. It sort of means nothing to me, but it's obviously not Wakulla. But Rashmi, to you, just your take. Here's a woman, again, if convicted, will be 75 going on 76 and will be almost certainly sentenced to life without parole if convicted. That means in Florida, that is, as you know, it is life. They come out of there with a toe tag from the coroner. Just physically, how hard do you think this is on someone who is 75 years old?
Well, I remember when I was of course it was federal, but I remember there was, do you guys remember Bernie Madoff's, and I forgot what her last name was, but anyway, she was there and she was definitely around that age. And it was hard. There was another woman, I remember when I was being transported from the Miami Federal Detention Center to Coleman. And we were in one of those con buses and handcuffed, shackled with a waist chain. And she was about 79. And it was such an unpleasant experience. Unpleasant isn't even the right word, right? Mm-hmm. She, without going into a lot of details, just trying to use the restroom on a bus in handcuffs and shackles. It was awful, right? I got up and helped her, but it was a really awful light. Just the moment. I have a dad who's 79, and my mom will be 74 this year, and I just can't imagine. You start suffering from mobility issues and of course medical issues, Jackie and I both know the medical system in prison is it's not even considered a medical system, in my opinion. It's so, the bureaucracy is it's not reliable. You can't count on getting your medication. And so as she ages, and who knows right now what medical issues she has, right? So how she will traverse that medical, whatever medical she's facing, as well as just aging and her needs and food,
And Rashmi, forget her ear canals that are a serious problem, at least she says, but let's just say, she's just not feeling well. Let's say she's got a slight fever and a headache, and you feel maybe the onset of COVID. What is that process like in prison? It's not like they're bringing you chicken soup and getting you an extra thick comforter. So what is that experience like if she's to get sick?
Speaking from experience, both in county and federal, you are basically on your own. Hopefully you've made some friends that will, at least if you're that sick, help walk you to medical, which was in the federal system, you have to walk into the medical to even get seen. Clearly no doctor is coming to your bedside in the housing unit. In the county system, the nurse comes into the housing unit twice a day or 3 times a day with a cart for medication. And then if you're sick and you need a doctor, I remember you would have to fill out a form or go tell the guard, and then they would take you down the hall, take you out of the housing unit down the hall to where the doctor used to sit. But it's not if you're having an emergency, I actually don't know what happens. I will share a story of when I was in federal. There was a woman who had been there for a few years, and 2 years before I was there, she noticed a lump in her breast, and she went to medical. They documented, and they were like, okay, we're going to order your mammogram. 2 years went by. I am not exaggerating. 2 years went by. She finally, and the mammogram happened while I was there. They transport her to the place. She gets her mammogram. She comes back 3 weeks later, comes back that she's got stage 4 cancer. And so in that 2 years, imagine had they just gone and taken her immediately. And she's not the only. Yeah. So she's not the only person who I know had a breast cancer issue in prison, which you can only imagine, right? It can also be happening in county, and they're just not catching it. So, I think it's an issue.
Yeah, that's horrific. A couple more questions and then we'll get the final thoughts. But Jackie, to you, One of the things that Donna spoke openly about, and I'm speaking factually, not body shaming here, but look, when she went in, a lot of people said she's not going to last a month, she's going to die, and I said no way. Like, she was in phenomenal shape. Like, when she went in,
I remember, yeah.
you know, she was, to me, my mom's turned 86 today, and my mom's in pretty good shape. She would probably kick the crap out of half
Karma's
of them
in great shape.
Yeah, Karma's in very good shape. Knock on my metal table here. But Donna Sue Adelson talked openly about putting on a third of her body weight, and you can see it. She said that the food is horrible. You know, she's used to having salads in Miami, on south of Fifth here, and now she's having carbs all day long. I mean, what's the effect of just the dietary situation in prison, the weight gain that she's experienced? It's got to be hurting her physically and affecting her longevity.
Well, the thing about it is that you're eating. I remember the girls in the kitchen, the food is literally marked not for human consumption. It's expired. It's all carbs. It's rice, potatoes. It's not healthy. And commissary does not even hold any. You can't even buy protein. So forget about protein. And if they happen to make eggs or boil eggs, they're gone in, whatever. So, of course, the thing is, I don't think she's helping herself either. Yes, she's locked in a cell, but she's eating carbs, but she's also not doing any exercise. So
that we know of.
Yeah, she's not. She's playing the victim, playing the martyr, I know Justin's on often, and he's so very right. If you play the victim, you're not only is your emotional health going to go down, your emotional health affects your physical health. So if she's emotionally playing this part, now physically, I gained 30 pounds when I was away. And I walked the track, and it puts you but you know what? It's like anything else. If I'm home and I gain 30 pounds, it's still my fault. I mean, it's still, you know what I mean? I can't blame the fact that there was only rice, potato, if I'm not moving my body at all.
By the way, I'm getting back to Dr. J. Julius Irving in 1 minute. For those who do not know, I actually have a signed photo that could be worth like $7 million. It's of Dr. J. He started in a movie called The Fish That Saved Pittsburgh in 1980, and I have that autograph. Yeah. My parents somehow had the same life insurance. Rest in peace, Lenny Weiss, as Dr. J. And he used to get me in the 1980s all this Dr. J stuff. Does everyone eat the same things in prison? We can ask in a second. But my question to you, Jackie. One of the things that has struck me is Wendy Adelson. There's an estranged brother, Rob, that's sort of out of the picture. Charlie's in prison. Harvey, the husband's in his 80s. But Wendy, as far as we know, has not been at any of the trials, is not going to be at Donna's trial, has not even, as that we know of, contacted Donna. We've seen jail logs, and it's just Harvey. What do you make of the fact, if this is all true, that her daughter, her beloved daughter, has basically abandoned her in her time of need? That's got to be difficult, too, when your daughter says, see you later, see you, wouldn't want to be you.
Yeah, I'm a mom. No matter what happens, if my kids didn't speak to me for any reason, it's devastating. The fact is that there's a rift there, because they say that Donna is not doing a plea deal to sell out Wendy. Wendy's terrified. She's there to save herself. And by what Wendy portrays herself in, what I've seen in the media and so forth, Wendy's not going to save her mother. Wendy's saying, my mother's 78, she's done. But really, I think that what surprises me, I guess, maybe it shouldn't surprise me, because I work with so many different women, but I don't think anybody's paying too much attention to Dan's family. He's lost. Their family has had such loss because of the life that was taken from them. And I think I usually do have emotions and feel, but I can't feel too much for Donna and Wendy's relationship right now, when their family ended the relationship, abruptly. That's unusual. And Jay knows that's very unusual for me to say.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, I wasn't talking, if she is a witness, there's going to be some, requirements that she's going to have to fulfill in terms of not attending certain aspects of the trial or certain days of the trial. But I'm talking like just visiting her in jail and being a support system. But back to Dr. Julius Irving. So just take us through, we addressed the women, but in your experience, elderly men in prison, I mean, how tough on them? And by the way, were you there? I forget that I should know this, and I obviously know the story, but the family that was murdered by the two guys who
Cheshire Home and
Cheshire, those guys. That was a horrific case, but you knew it right away. But what about the aging male population? Is it tougher on them? Tougher on the women? What do they deal with?
Okay, just to answer your question, yes, I actually had Hayes and Carmela Zajeski when I oversaw the segregation unit. So I dealt with Carmela Zajeski the morning after the crime and for a few years after that.
Are those guys are they basically in the shoe? Are they in solitary?
So what happened? So they were sentenced to death, and they were on death row in Connecticut. I believe at the time there were 14 inmates on death row. And a few years after that, Governor Malloy repealed the death penalty in Connecticut, commuted all the sentences to life without the possibility of parole. And as I understand it, 12 of those individuals are now housed in general population maximum security facilities in Connecticut, and Hayes and Carmela Zajeski actually had to be sent out of state. They were the only two inmates on death row that they felt they couldn't safely put back into the population in Connecticut, so they were sent out of state on an exchange. So some interstate compact is what we call it. So yes, very, very familiar with those. Yeah.
Wow, they sound like great guys. Not. But what about elderly men, Jay? What's the biggest challenge for a guy who's in his 70s or 80s? Jay freeze up on me. I think Jay froze up. We'll get back to Jay. He froze up in a great spot though. Looking.
Joel, I'm going to jump off. I have to go catch a flight. Yeah. So thank you so much for having me on. Yeah, I have to jump off the flight. Head out to
Rashmi, have a great flight. Hit me up when you're back. We'll connect in Miami.
I will.
Great to have you.
Good. It was so nice. Thank you so much for having me on.
Great
to
have
all the listeners. Thank you so much.
Yes. Safe travels.
Thank you.
Okay. Look at that. Jay is frozen perfectly.
It's just in the perfect position.
Yeah. So I'll take this opportunity to wind things up.
I have to screenshot that.
But Jackie, the trial starts. Jury selection is a week from Monday. It's probably going to be 8 to 12 day trial. Charlie's trial lasted 8 days, and then the conviction came in under 3 hours. That was with a dinner break. I guess if there are not a lot of Donna fans here, but if you were going to have a conversation, if Donna said, "Hey, Jackie, I need some advice. What do I do if I'm convicted?" What do you tell her?
She needs to come to some sort of, I guess, aha moment. She's going to be, I mean, come on. She knows she's going to be there for life now. She knows she's going to be there for life. And I would say, stop playing the victim. You want to, life inside prison is a whole, it's a structure. It's a ecosystem within itself. And I've said this before on the show, there's various rules that you live by there. You can really build a life inside prison. I've met women that have been there 20, 30 years. I have a woman that just got commuted that was in prison for 22 years, and she doesn't even know how to live in the outside world because you need to immerse yourself. And she could really do great things inside prison. And I don't know. I think what frustrates me the most, Joel, quite frankly, is she's seen all these trials go by, right? She's seen take accountability, stop playing the victim. You know what the outcome's going to be. Make your life a little bit easier. And
do you think the acceptance is going to be much harder? Like for me, if I were Jackie Purcell and I'm like, well, I'm getting out in 2 years. Yeah, I could convince myself. But if I'm Donna Adelson and if I am convicted and I know that I am never, ever getting out, I don't know that I would have the same will.
No, she's going to say she's innocent, period, no matter what happens. And she's going to continually seek that getting out. And then before you know it, 2 years goes by, is that hope. Filing motions, filing over and over and over and over again. And while she's waiting for hope and all these things, her life is going to go by and just disintegrate, and she'll have no quality of life living that way. Versus you do have an option for a quality of life inside prison if you opt to. I did the same thing. I went inside and I was emailing my husband every other day, look up this statute. This can get me out. Please. It took me 2 months before I just sat down and said, you did this crime. Figure it out.
By the way, the trial starts a week from Tuesday. I'm corrected once again. I love having 79 additional Jewish mothers or not Jewish mothers. Either one is fine. But yes, Julie Frew is correct. It starts on the 19th. I'll be driving up to Tallahassee a week from this Monday. I'm just warning everybody. I might take a day or so off next week to mentally prepare for what is going to be.
You're not allowed.
A long haul.
We're going to have to watch another podcast.
That's not allowed. By the way, during the course of this podcast, I just got a text from my lovely publisher. And we just lost Jay again. I'm bummed. But anyway, he's apparently pleased for the first time ever. So shout out to Anthony Zaccardi. But if you need a good summer book and you want to get your head out of true crime and learn a lot about life, the book is on Audible. It's voiced by my mom and myself, and paperback on Amazon. You can get it anywhere books are sold.
I read it, actually. It's really, really good.
Thank you. And it's the same. Thank you. And it's the same title as the podcast. It's easy to remember. Surviving the Survivor. I can see John logging on. Here he is again. John, that Wi-Fi in Connecticut, man. It's like Connecticut and Nepal. It's the same kind of Wi-Fi. But
I cannot apologize enough.
No, it happens all the time. But tomorrow we're going to start airing Donna Adelson's hearing with the great Joe Patuto starting 8:45 a.m. We're going to have that. It's at least supposed to go the length of the morning, possibly into the afternoon. Join us for that. You'll see Donna in court tomorrow in Leon County, sort of a preview of the trial the following Tuesday. Jay, just this is a woman who still comes from a very affluent family. They built their own wealth to a large degree. The son gets convicted. The husband is sort of by her side. The daughter's disappeared. The other son is estranged. It's like they had everything, and now it is slipped through the cracks of their fingers. Your final thoughts on what awaits Donna Adelson if convicted and she gets sent from the Wakulla County Jail into state prison for the rest of her natural life in the great state of Florida?
Again, as I said, a lot of it depends on her. In a lot of ways, she sort of controls her fate. Obviously, there are things she can't account for, but I would say, generally speaking, if she, quote unquote, does what she's supposed to do, follows the protocols, engages with staff, does the things she's supposed to, she will have no different a life than anybody else in that situation, which, again, broadly speaking, is just finding some sort of hobby, something to do, keeping her busy and doing her time. That's really what I think. Again, a multitude of things could happen, but in my experience, 95% of inmates just do their bid, mind their own business, try and stay out of trouble. As long as trouble doesn't come to her, we'll see.
Absolutely loved having Dr. J in the Department of Corrections for 20 years and now a teacher and a professor. You got Jackie Purcell, who's a survivor, former inmate, and appreciate our other guest whose name I don't have right in front of me, which is horrible, but I will get it because she's a first-time guest. Where'd it go? Oh, there it is. Rashmi Iran. She, by the way, was an Ivy League educated attorney, a Wall Street investment banker, a serial entrepreneur, a college professor. She was a trained vocalist, and then she slips in there, convicted felon. It's good. You list 10,000 things, and no one sees a convicted felon. But she's got her what together now, and I am momentarily going to be heading out to take Harm to. We got to go to dinner early in Miami. If you don't go to dinner,
wait, are you going to sing happy birthday to her on the air before you leave? Because I think all the listeners, everybody's watching, wants to hear her.
I will do that for you. There was something. What was I just going? There was one other thing that I had to say, and I forget. But I'll say happy birthday. Oh, this is my mother-in-law. This is the COE's mother right here. Happy birthday, dear Carmela. It's a family affair. Thank you, Sandy. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Carm. Happy birthday
To you.
You have a great day. The only person I've ever heard say that they
You are not a trained singer.
no, I'm that I'm not. The only person I've ever heard in my life say that they enjoy prison is the great Larry Levine, Jackie. He said
Yes,
that
the only one.
he didn't have to worry about taxes. He didn't have to worry about his mortgage. And you're talking to a guy right now who's dealing with his taxes late. And God, there's nothing I hate more. But Jay, you're back.
You're singing.
Yeah, Jay missed it. But Jay, it was great to meet you. Stick around for 1 second. We're saying goodbye. And I just want to thank you offline. Appreciate you all. Love you, America. Love you, Connecticut. And by the way, Ned Smith with the bun in her great state. There's a pretty good doc on HBO right now about the yogurt shop murders, never solved in Austin, Texas. They say it was the most horrific murders. I think it was 4 young girls murdered. That documentary is on HBO. I don't know why I always plug these docs, but I watch them. What I do to get away from true crime is I go watch even more morbid true crime stories on HBO afterwards.
I need healthy.
Yeah, I'm going to need a break from all this. But thank you all for being here. We will see you later. And I'll post pictures from Carm's birthday on Instagram, Surviving the Survivor. Get the Audible book. You'll love it. Carm screams at me. See you guys tomorrow for the hearing, 8:45 a.m. Eastern time. Stick around.